Part 5. Graveyard. Southwest Arizona serves as an ideal graveyard for airplanes. It has a dry, clear, and virtually smog-free climate that helps minimize corrosion. It has an alkaline soil so firm that airplanes can be towed and parked on the surface without sinking. An airplane graveyard is not just a fence around airplane carcasses and piles of scrap metal. Rather, many millions of dollars worth of surplus parts are salvaged to keep active aircraft flying. Joe Zentner, Airplane Graveyards, DesertUSA.com. Chapter 32. The Admiral. The blazing sun bakes the Arizona hardpan by day, and the temperature plunges at night. More than 4,000 planes from every era of aviation history shine in the heat of that sun. From cruising altitude, the rows of planes look like crop lines, a harvest of abandoned technology. Number 1. You arrived here by necessity, you stay here by choice. From way up there you can't see that some of those grounded jets are occupied. 33 to be exact. Spy satellites can catch the activity, but catching it and noticing it are two different things. CIA data analysts have far more pressing things to look for than a band of refugee unwinds. This is what the Admiral's counting on. But just in case, the rules in the graveyard are strict. All activity takes place in the fuselage or under the wings, unless it's absolutely necessary to go out into the open. The heat helps reinforce the edict. Number 2. Surviving has earned you the right to be respected. The Admiral doesn't exactly own the graveyard, but his management is undisputed, and he answers to no one but himself. A combination of business sense, favors owed, and a military willing to do anything to get rid of him are what made him such a sweet deal possible. Number 3. My way is the only way. The graveyard is a thriving business. The Admiral buys decommissioned airplanes and sells the parts, or even resells them whole. Most business is done online. The Admiral is able to acquire about one retired jet a month. Of course, each one arrives loaded with a secret cargo of unwinds. That's the real business of the graveyard, and business has been good. Number 4. Your life is my gift to you. Treat it like one. Buyers do, on occasion, come to inspect or to pick up merchandise, but there's always plenty of warning. From the time they enter the gate, it's 5 miles to the yard itself. It gives the kids more than enough time to disappear like gremlins into the machinery. These types of business-related visitors come only about once a week, and there are people who wonder what the Admiral does with all the rest of his time. He tells them he's building a wildlife preserve. Number 5. You are better than those who would unwind you. Rise to the occasion. There are only 3 adults in the Admiral's employ. 2 office workers stationed in a trailer far from the unwinds, and a helicopter pilot. The pilot goes by the name of Cleaver, and he has 2 jobs. The first is to tour important buyers around the lot in style. The second is to take the Admiral on trips around the graveyard once a week. Cleaver is the only employee who knows about the horde of unwinds sequestered in the far reaches of the lot. He knows, but he's paid more than enough to keep quiet. And besides, the Admiral trusts Cleaver implicitly. One must trust one's personal pilot. Number 6. Everyone in the graveyard contributes. No exceptions. The real work in the graveyard, in the yard, is done by the unwinds. There are whole teams specially designated to strip the jets, sort parts, and get them ready for sale. It's just like any other junkyard, but on a larger scale. Not all the jets get stripped. Some remain untouched if the Admiral thinks he can resell them whole, for example. Some are retooled as living quarters for the kids, who are both literally and figuratively under his wing. Number 7. Teenage rebellion is for suburban schoolchildren. Get over it. The kids are grouped in teams best suited for their jobs, their ages, and their personal needs. A lifetime of experience molding military buffs into a coherent fighting force has prepared the Admiral for creating a functional society out of angry, troubled kids. Number 8. Hormones will not rule my desert. Girls are never grouped with boys. Number 9. At 18, you cease to be my concern. The Admiral has a list of his 10 supreme rules posted in each and every plane where kids live and work. The kids call them the 10 Demandments. He doesn't care what they call them as long as each and every one of them knows the list by heart. Number 10. Make something of yourself. This is an order. It's a challenge, keeping almost 400 kids healthy, hidden, and whole. But the Admiral has never walked away from a challenge. And his motivation for doing this, like his name, is something he prefers to keep to himself. Chapter 33. Risa. For Risa, the first days in the graveyard are harsh and seem to last forever. Her residency begins with an exercise in humility. Every new arrival is required to face a tribunal. 3 17-year-olds sitting behind a desk in the gutted shell of a wide-bodied jet. 2 boys and a girl. These 3, together with Amp and Jeeves, who Risa met when she first stepped off the plane, make up the elite group of 5 everyone calls the Goldens. They're the Admiral's 5 most trusted kids, and therefore the ones in charge. By the time they get to Risa, they've already processed 40 kids. Tell us about yourself, says the boy on the right. Starboard boy, she calls him, since after all they're in a vessel. What do you know and what can you do? The last tribunal Risa faced was back at Stayho when she was sentenced to be unwound. She can tell that these 3 are bored and they don't really care what she says, just as long as they can get on to the next one. She finds herself hating them, just as she hated the headmaster that day he tried to explain why her membership in the human race had been revoked. The girl who sits in the middle must read her feelings because she smiles and says, "Don't worry, this isn't a test. We just want to help you find where you'll fit in here." It's an odd thing to say, since not fitting in is every unwind's problem. Risa takes a deep breath. I was a music student at Stayho, she says, then immediately regrets telling them that she's from a state home. Even among unwinds, there's prejudice and pecking orders. Sure enough, Starboard leans back, crossing his arms in clear disapproval. But the portside boy says, I'm a ward too. Florida Stayho 18. Ohio 23. What instrument did you play? The girl asks. Classical piano. Sorry, says Starboard. We've got enough musicians and none of the planes came with a piano. Survival has earned me the right to be respected, Risa says. Isn't that one of the Admiral's rules? I don't think he'd like your attitude. Starboard squirms. Can we just get on with this? The girl offers an apologetic grin. As much as I hate to admit it, in the here and now there are other things we need more before a virtuoso. What else can you do? Just give me a job and I'll do it, Risa says, trying to get this over with. That's what you're going to do anyway, right? Well, they always need help in the galley, says Starboard, especially after meals. The girl gives Risa a long, pleading look, perhaps hoping that Risa will come up with something better for herself. But all Risa says is, Fine, dishwasher. Am I done here? She turns to leave, doing her best to douse her disgust. The next kid comes in as she's heading out. He looks awful. His nose is swollen and purple, his shirt is caked with dried blood, and both his nostrils have started bleeding fresh. What happened to you? He looks at her and sees who it is and says, Your boyfriend. That's what happened to me, and he's going to pay. Risa could ask him a dozen questions about that, but the kid's bleeding all over his shirt. First priority is to stop it, so he tips his head back. No, lean forward, otherwise you'll gag on your own blood. The kid listens. The tribunal of 3 come out from behind their desk to see what they can do, but Risa has it under control. Pinch it like this. You need to be patient with this kind of thing. So she shows the kid exactly how to pinch his nose to stem the flow of blood. Then, once the bleeding stops, Portside comes over to her and says, Nice work. She's immediately promoted from dishwasher to medic. Funny, but it's indirectly Connor's doing since he's the one who broke that kid's nose in the first place. As for the kid with the bloody nose, he gets assigned to dishwashing. The first few days, actually trying to act like a medic without any real training is terrifying. There are other kids in the medical jet who seem to know a lot more. But she quickly comes to realize that they were thrown into this just like she was when they arrived. "You'll do fine. You're natural," the senior medic, who was all of 17, tells her. He's right. When she gets used to the idea, handling first aid, standard illnesses, and even suturing simple wounds becomes as familiar to her as playing the piano. The days begin to pass quickly, and before she realizes it, she's been there a month. Each day that goes by adds to her sense of security. The Admiral was an odd bird, but he'd done something no one else had been able to do for her since she'd left Stayho. He'd given her back her right to exist.